Hello and welcome. I'm Suma Katauka and you're watching World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. Russia has said that it has successfully tested its nuclear-powered Poseidon underwater drone, the second nuclear-capable weapons test in a week. President Vladimir Putin claims the device, which carries a nuclear power unit, cannot be intercepted. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel has said that Hurricane Melissa has caused extensive damage after making landfall on the island's southern coast overnight. He has urged residents to stay sheltered as the storm continues to batter Cuba. Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz has warned that Hamas leaders, both political and military, will be targeted without immunity. After recent Israeli airstrikes on Gaza, Katz has also banned Red Cross visits to Palestinian detainees under Israel's illegal combatants law, amid ongoing ceasefire talks mediated by Qatar, Egypt, the US, and Turkey. Israel has reinstated the Gaza ceasefire after carrying out a wave of airstrikes that has killed over 100 people and targeted dozens of militant sites. According to the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF has also claimed its strikes eliminated 30 commanders in Gaza, while local hospitals and civil defense has reported heavy civilian casualties, including 35 children, according to Gaza's health ministry. The United States and South Korea have agreed to keep reciprocal tariffs at 15% after a preliminary deal earlier this year. Both countries will reduce tariffs on automobiles and auto parts from 25% to 15%. Bangladesh's exiled former leader, Sheikh Hasina, has warned that banning her Awami League party from next year's elections could deepen national divisions. She has accused the interim government of disenfranchising millions of her supporters after the party was buried under the Anti-Terrorism Act amid war crimes investigations. The Netherlands has held a snap election seen as a crucial test for Europe's far right, with Geert Wilders' anti-immigration freedom party known as PVV running with 3 other parties, while over 50% of voters remain undecided. However, all mainstream parties have ruled out forming a coalition with Wilders amid growing polarization over immigration and housing. The United States will reduce its military presence in Europe by suspending the rotation of a combat brigade deployed across several NATO countries, according to Romania's defense ministry. The move comes as Washington reassesses its force posture on NATO's eastern flank. Now we start with Russian news. Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced that Russia successfully has tested its nuclear-powered Poseidon underwater drone, describing the test as a huge success. Speaking at Moscow's Mandrika Hospital during a visit with wounded soldiers, President Putin has stated the test marked the first time a nuclear propulsion system was successfully launched on the autonomous torpedo. Let's listen into what he has said.
Вчера провели еще одно испытание, еще одного перспективного комплекса. Это подводные безэкипажные подводные изделия «Посейдон», тоже с ядерной энергетической.
The Poseidon is an autonomous nuclear-powered underwater drone, also described as a super torpedo capable of carrying both conventional and nuclear warheads. First unveiled in 2018, it is designed to operate at high speeds of up to 100 knots and at depths of up to 1,000 meters, making it difficult to detect or intercept. President Putin has stated that the Poseidon's power significantly exceeds that of Russia's most advanced intercontinental missile, the Sarmat. The weapon is intended as a strategic second strike system capable of bypassing missile defenses to target coastal cities, naval bases, or aircraft carrier groups. Local reports have claimed that a Poseidon detonation could generate a radioactive tsunami, contaminating coastal areas and rendering them uninhabitable for decades. Now, for this discussion, we welcome Glenn Grant. He's an ex-advisor to Ukrainian Defense Minister, joins us live from Riga. Thank you very much, Glenn, for joining us again. Good to see you. Thank you. Now, looking at this, how does this test of Russia's Poseidon underwater drone alter the global strategic balance and nuclear deterrence dynamics, if it does? And what challenges does this system pose to Ukraine in particular, or other areas in Europe?
Okay. Well, I mean, the first thing we have to look at is this actually true? And if it's just coming out of Putin's mouth and not out from anybody else, and not out from the sort of the international system that tracks Russia, then I have grave doubts about actually whether there's any truth in the matter. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, for the first time they've done something. Well, in the first place, there's a difference between being a nuclear-powered missile, which I have grave misgivings and thoughts about, and a nuclear warhead missile. Those two things mustn't be confused. Because if you're actually making a missile that's going to go for 14,000 miles and it's got a nuclear engine inside it, I can't see exactly what their intention is of telling anybody that they've actually got this far. Because normally when you've got something that's secret and it's very, very clever, the first thing you do is use it so that the opposition is caught by surprise. So what Putin has done is, if it's real, he's given away surprise. I don't think that's the case. I think that what he's done is trying to make people frightened. So I have grave doubts about it. Okay, if it works and it's carrying a nuclear warhead, then of course he's game-changed everything. Because the rest of the world is not going to be very happy with him attacking somewhere with nuclear weapons. If it's a conventional warhead, which I suspect any of their missiles are, then actually the amount of damage it can do is actually not that much, because it's underwater. They're not going to hit any Ukrainian military ships because there aren't any of any size. So the best they can do is drive it into a port, and the only one they can do that to is Odessa. So if we don't see anything into Odessa in the next 5-6 weeks, then we can be absolutely sure that it was another Putin bluff, just trying to make people worried and frightened.
And giving the benefit of the doubt here, as you say, Glenn, do you think it is working on what Putin's intentions were on getting people frightened towards Ukraine? Or do you think Ukraine will step up and try to make something like this?
Oh, yeah, Ukraine's not going to take any notice of this at all. None whatsoever, because there's really nothing they can do with it of any seriousness to damage Ukraine, because it's underwater. So you can forget about it worrying Ukraine. It's more likely to worry, if it's real, it's likely to worry Britain or Norway, or people that have got naval bases that could actually be destroyed. But then that missile's got to be fired, and where are they going to launch it from? Murmansk, which means basically no matter what distance they go, it can only really attack Norway or Great Britain, Scotland, somewhere like that. So, and I don't think anybody in Britain or Norway has raised any worries about this so far. So I just have my doubts.
And what countermeasures or technological adaptations should these countries that you've mentioned, such as Norway, consider in response to Poseidon's capabilities, giving them the benefit of the doubt?
Then you can only have counter-drone drones of some sort, or counter-drone missiles that actually, when you've actually identified that this missile is coming towards you under the water, that you fire another drone back at it. But given that the amount of places it could actually attack in the north is quite large, I don't think anybody's going to bother doing anything, to be honest, because it would mean huge amounts of money. If after perhaps Putin fires one and does do damage, then I think you will see an awful lot of action from countries who are worrying that they will be next. But if there's no firing and it's only talk, then I don't see we're going to get anything. They're going to do anything, sorry.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Glenn Grant for joining us and sharing that insight as an ex-advisor to Ukrainian Defense Minister. Thank you very much. Now we stay in the region. Russian President Vladimir Putin has stated that Ukrainian forces in the cities of Kupiansk and Pokrovsk are currently blocked and surrounded by Russian troops. He has urged the political leader of Ukraine to make decisions regarding the safety and fate of civilians trapped in these areas. Putin has further added that Russia is ready to provide access to journalists to report from the encircled zones, highlighting Moscow's claimed openness in the operation. He has also stated that overall, Russian forces are making progress across multiple fronts in Ukraine, signaling continued advancement of Russian military operations. Meanwhile, Ukrainian military has issued a statement saying that it has hit 2 Russian oil refineries and gas processing plant. The attack was severe and caused explosions and fires at the sites. The strikes targeted Russia's Mariinsky refinery and the gas plant in the town of Budenovsk. These recent Ukrainian attacks target Russia's core economic and military capabilities, causing disruptions in fuel supplies and generating pressure from the local population. However, Russia has also caused significant damage to Ukrainian civil infrastructure by targeting energy grids, leaving several hundred people without electricity. The front line remains active in the war amid talks of using frozen Russian assets by the European Union and new missile systems deployed by Russia. Now for this discussion, we welcome Raymond Vickery. He's a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Raymond, for joining us again. Good to see you. Raymond, looking at this news, what could be economic consequences that could arise from the European Union's discussions on using frozen Russian assets, and how could this affect their reputation moving forward?
Well, thanks very much for having me. Peace like war must be waged, and you've got to have a strategy and you've got to have partners. Unfortunately, at this point, from a U.S. perspective, we don't really have a strategy. We lurch from pillar to post in trying to meet whatever the challenge is for the day. That having been said, it's perfectly apparent that Putin is at this time very much concerned about sanctions. There's going to be a discussion tomorrow between President Trump and President Xi. Sanctions of the oil companies will be a part of that, already being discussed with India. And then you have the question of the assets being frozen. So the squeeze is being put on Russia economically. And the counterattack from Putin is one of information warfare. It must be remembered that this war was caused by the worst breach of the UN Charter in 80 years when Russia invaded contrary to its agreements in the Budapest Agreement of 1994. which said, Ukraine, if you give up your nuclear weapons, we, Russia, we, US, we, UK, will guarantee your independence and security. With that breach, Russia is embarked upon trying to reestablish an empire. The endeavor here is to be able to stop this without getting us into a nuclear war. That's the reason that there is resort to the economic freezing of assets, the sanctions, the tariffs which have been put on in some cases to try to get Putin to understand that the way forward for Russia and for his greatness is not to conquer territory and try to reestablish the old Russian Empire, but to compete peacefully. So the information coming out of Russia and from Putin this day and yesterday is really has to be discounted as part of an information warfare on the part of Russia to try to make it look inevitable that Kyiv is going to collapse. That hasn't occurred over the past 3 years. It was supposed to take a week. The Russians have been talking about conquering this town of Pokrovsk for the last 14 months. That's when it was going to be done. The question of being surrounded seems to be one of information warfare.
Building on your answer about information warfare, what are the potential military and political implications of Russia offering journalists to access to encircled zones amid this information warfare between both sides? And what do you think could be their political motive over here?
Well, the political motive is to try to get some third party to say that what is coming out of Putin's mouth is true. If there are journalists who accept the Russian offer, you can be sure that there are going to be restrictions and input from the Russian side to get these journalists to try to authenticate what's being said, some of the fabrications, to provide some grounds for it. As your previous guest has indicated, you cannot accept as reality what comes out of the mouth of Putin, because he's in a desperate situation, facing freezing of assets, facing sanctions. And if you can cut off the economic wherewithal to Russia, it's not going to be able to continue its military program of aggrandizement. So I think this offer to journalists to come in is to try to find some journalists who are compliant, to give them the Russian side of the story, to let...
Raymond, we have, it seems like we have lost you over there, but I would like to thank Raymond Vickery for always joining us and sharing that insight throughout our news. Now we move on to our next news. Germany is raising alarm after what officials describe as the deadliest night of bombing in Gaza since the U.S. brokered truce took effect earlier this month. Berlin's Foreign Minister Johann Vadeful has stated that he's deeply concerned and is urging Israel to show restraint to prevent further civilian suffering. His comments come as Israel has launched a wave of airstrikes, which Gazan officials claim that has killed at least 100 Palestinians, including more than 20 children. That is according to Gaza's health ministry. Israel has stated that the strikes were retaliation for Hamas violations of the ceasefire, including sniper fire that killed an IDF reservist in southern Gaza. France is also sounding the alarm. A government spokesperson warns that Israel's renewed military operations are threatening the ceasefire, citing Hamas attacks and delays in returning hostage remains. UK's Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has also responded to the strikes. Let's listen in.
I'm deeply concerned, Mr. Speaker, by the strikes, and that underlines the fragility of the ceasefire deal. All sides need to uphold President Trump's peace plan. It is the only route to long-term peace for Israelis and Palestinians. We are, of course, in close touch with the US and regional allies, pushing for de-escalation. Mr. Speaker, the scale of destruction in Gaza is unimaginable. The immediate priority remains getting aid in at the speed and the volume needed. Thank you.
Israel has stated today that it had reinstated the ceasefire even after it carried out dozens of strikes. The IDF says the operations targeted terror sites under direct orders from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his security cabinet. Meanwhile, on your screens, you can see a drone footage released by the Israeli military. The Israeli military, through the video, has claimed that Hamas has planted the remains of an Israeli hostage at an excavation site before calling the Red Cross team and pretending that it had found a missing hostage. This was allegedly done to create false impression of efforts to locate bodies. The International Committee of Red Cross, on the other hand, stated that its team is unaware of the remains had been planted at the site before their arrival. Red Cross has also stated that they have confirmed with their people that they have received the bodies from Hamas. No media has been able to confirm the location by the building's road layout, nor the empty plot of this land, which matched satellite imagery of the area. The date when the video was filmed could not be independently verified either. However, the Israeli military has stated that it was filmed on Monday, 27th of October. No media could also independently verify the identity of these people digging and what was in the white bag they were placing. Hamas is yet to respond to these accusations in the video. Now for this discussion, we welcome Ali Muhammad Abushbak. He's a Middle East researcher, joins us live from Cairo. Thank you very much, Ali, for joining us again. Good to see you. Ali, what is going on? What are we to believe about this? And what do you think? Who's making these videos then?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. The thing is, as you know, in conflict situation, there is a several of fake news and disinformation about what is happening on the ground that the both fighting side they are using to manipulate the international opinion, the international public opinion, and the communities as well to maintain the morale of the internal group or internal audience from both sides. So the thing is here, up to now, it's not clear this video. It's about credible or no, but in my opinion, this is, I guess, if they are going for media forensic, they will realize it's fake, because one of the significant term in the deal between Hamas and Israel during the beginning of October, that the peace process, our peace plan, Donald Trump peace plan, it was to hold the Israelis drone from the Gaza sky to make Hamas fighter to able to find the remain body. This is one of the significant terms. So how Israel's released this kind of drone during Hamas looking for the remain body, I don't know. And it was also because this drone, it has a very huge noise, a very loud noise. So it make Hamas fighter realize that there is a drone in the sky. So if they are do it, as the Israelis said, they will take a precaution about it. So I guess this is Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to mobilize the international community to accept and adopt his notion to resume the war against Gaza. As you know, this is a fragile ceasefire since it was affected in the mid of October. Israel, violated this ceasefire twice. One last thing, it was yesterday. Among of these casualties, it was a Palestinian journalist, Mohammed al-Milyarawi, from Jabalia refugee camp, he and his wife, and we have seen several of footage and picture most of the casualties and the victim of the Israelis bombardment yesterday night. It was civilians, children and women, and it's breaking the heart. As I mentioned before many times, that's Benjamin Netanyahu's policy about this ceasefire. The fate of Gaza, it will be parallel, but like the face of Lebanon, South Lebanon, Hezbollah. They are applying the policy of heavy and intensive bombardment without any response. So he's like this. Showing his seriousness about ceasefire in Gaza, and he accepts the international community condemnation and denouncement and stop the war, as he's a peace seeker on the ground, on media, but on the ground he's trying to violate it, and he's trying to targeting civilians accordingly. And we have seen several of accidents. What happened? I guess if Hamas made a mistake I'm talking about last time, if Hamas made a mistake or delay in return the remaining body, it's not necessary to resume the war or fighting or killing civilians, and it's not necessary to bombard civilians. What he's trying to do to avoid the Israeli trail, because there is a charge against him, corruption charge. He's trying to avoid it, and he's trying to make his government coalition more happy, especially Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, who is always urging for return to the war and urging to the destroy Hamas or erase Hamas. And up to now, the second phase of negotiation is not affected. Up to now, it's halt because of Benjamin Netanyahu's policy on the ground. And up to now, the border, one point, the border, Gaza-Egypt border is still closed. It was one of the significant terms of this peace process to reopen the border and evacuated the injured civilians and patient civilians from Gaza to other country for a treatment journey. So up to now, it's the border is still closed. And that exacerbated the situation. I guess next time he tried to provoke Hamas to see the retaliation from Hamas, what will happen, and escalate the situation. But I guess now Hamas acting more mature and control its reaction up to now. So these things, all of Benjamin Netanyahu's propaganda, it will not work. And the international community realize how much Israel and the pro-Israel's media, they are manipulating and they are disseminating fake news and propaganda. So I'm not surprised by this video or footage that they are sharing it about Hamas action and taking the remaining body from other side to other side. So there is no confirmation. And who knows this? I mean, there is no confirmation either they are Hamas fighter or no. Despite they are not identify the place where they take the picture from where, and there is no any significant sign to understand maybe this is under the Israeli control, this area. So there is a several of a question about this video, but I guess Hamas is not stupid, at this level to do such kind of cooking a story like this.
Yes, indeed. Ali, thank you very much for joining us and sharing that insight from Cairo. That was Ali Muhammad Abushbak. He joined us as a Middle East researcher. Now we stay in the region. Gazans have gathered at the Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis in the southern Gaza Strip to mourn their loved ones who were killed in an overnight Israeli strikes. According to Gaza's Civil Defense Agency and hospitals, the series of Israeli strikes has killed more than hundreds of people across the Palestinian territory. Some of the Gazan residents have reacted to the situation. Let's listen into what they have said.
ونطالب العالم الأجمع بأن يقف مع شعب غزة. شعب غزة يبحث عن أكل، يبحث عن ماء، يبحث عن حرية، يبحث عن فتح المعابر، يبحث عن عيشة كريمة مثلهم مثل.
وين الضمانات اللي حكوا عنها؟ وين الادعاء إنه في وقف إطلاق نار قدامي؟ أطفال والله ما إلهم في شيء، والله براء ما إلهم في شيء. ليشهم نايمين؟ ايش اللي صار؟ ايش اللي جرى؟ مش عارفه.
نايمه هي اولادها وبناتها اطفال كلهم صغار، ضربوهم صاروخين نزلوا قتلوهم. شهداء عند رب العالمين ان شاء الله.
Now we move on to our next news. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced that the United States is prepared to assist Jamaica in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. Let's listen into what he has said.
Well, we have to. On a humanitarian basis, we have to. So we're watching it closely and we're prepared to move. But, you know, it's doing tremendous damage. It's, as we speak, it's right there right now.
Administration of food stamps, SNAP benefits. Is your administration looking at again the debt?
Melissa made landfall near the southwestern town of New Hope, bringing sustained winds up to 185 miles per hour. That is well above the Category 5 threshold. In southwestern Jamaica, officials have reported severe flooding in the parish of St. Elizabeth, with more than 500,000 residents left without power. Emergency response teams are coordinating efforts as the island begins assessing the full extent of the damage. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel has said that the Hurricane Melissa has caused extensive damage. He has urged citizens to remain vigilant and stay safely sheltered as the storm continues to affect parts of Cuba. Officials warned that recovery efforts will be challenging in the coming days. Across the Caribbean, Haiti has also faced heavy destruction, with at least 10 people reported dead due to the flooding. Residents in Cuba are surveilling the damage left behind by the hurricane. Let's listen into what some of them have said.
Sí me da miedo, pero más miedo me da
Siempre hay un miedo psicológico porque efectivamente es un evento de la naturaleza muy fuerte. Pero bueno, los cubanos, gracias a Dios y gracias a la preparación que nos ha dado el Estado, estamos preparados para asumir cualquier tipo de, por decirlo así, de defensa con respecto a eso.
Meteorologists have said that Melissa ranks as the third most intense hurricane in Caribbean history. Let's listen into what was said by the Cuban meteorologist.
Después de las 3 de la madrugada tocó tierra por el sur de la provincia de Santiago de Cuba, específicamente el municipio de Guamá, como huracán categoría 3 en la escala Saffir-Simpson, con vientos máximos sostenidos de 195 kilómetros por hora. Se ha debilitado algo y a esta hora pues todavía continúa siendo un huracán intenso, es decir, categoría 3 en la escala Saffir-Simpson, aunque con vientos que han disminuido ligeramente. La imagen de Santiago, pero donde se concentran las lluvias más fuertes, también los vientos huracanados y las fuertes marejadas con inundaciones costeras continúan siendo sobre la parte oriental del país. Vamos a verlo. También se reportaban vientos fuertes en rachas, la mayor hasta este momento 187 kilómetros por hora, reportados precisamente en la estación meteorológica ubicada en Contramaestre, en el territorio de Santiago de Cuba.
That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.